It's getting hot in here, but how hot is it getting? On the bench to review today, I have 4 heat guns, 4 cordless heat guns, and as you can see, these 3 are still in the box. I have used the Makita one. None of these 4 tool brands gave me these tools, so we're going to look at a few basic things, what each one comes with. As you can see, one of them comes with something that the other 3 don't, even though it's still just a bare tool. This is not a kit. We'll see how hot they get from a set distance. We'll see which throws out the most heat at a set distance. We'll see which melts something the best at a set distance. And we'll see how long they all run on a 5 amp hour 18650 celled battery. But first I better get them all out of the boxes. The models are the DeWalt DCE530, the HiKOKI RH18DA, the Makita DHG181, and the Milwaukee M18BHG. The DeWalt comes with the tool, 3 attachments, the manual is super light and is made in China. The HiKOKI is a little bit larger, comes with 3 similar attachments, has a digital control panel on the top, and does not say on the box or the tool where it is made, but I'm guessing it's made in China. The Milwaukee only comes with 2 attachments. It's rated for a lower temperature than the previous 2. It comes with a manual that is completely pointless and might as well not have been in the box. And it is professionally made in China. And finally, the Makita, which comes in a case, has 4 attachments, 1 more than the HiKOKI and the DeWalt, and twice as many as the Milwaukee. And guess what? It's made in China. If you want to know any more information about any of these 4 tools, take a look down in the description. There will be some links to buy them and find out more info. When it comes to the heat ratings that the manufacturers give these tools, the HiKOKI and the Makita both on 550 degrees Celsius, the DeWalt on 530 degrees Celsius, and the Milwaukee on an odd 468 degrees Celsius, because clearly that tool was made for a Fahrenheit number, that Fahrenheit number being 875 degrees. Other similarities and differences include the DeWalt not having a hook on the back like the other 3. These 3 have a light down the bottom, whereas the Milwaukee is in line with the nozzle. These 3 all have a trigger, whereas the HiKOKI is a slide switch. These 3 can all be locked on. The Milwaukee fails on that test. The Milwaukee also only has 1 setting, whereas the other 3 all have low and high modes. The Makita also has a dial for changing your temperature, and the HiKOKI, which we can't quite see properly yet because we haven't got a battery on it, has a digital readout. The 2 Japanese brands also have a mechanism to help remove your hot attachments, whereas these 2 do not. The DeWalt is the lightest by a considerable margin, being only 2/3 the weight of the heaviest one, the Milwaukee. And 3 of them stand up really well, but the HiKOKI is really hard to actually get it to balance. It just wants to tip forward all the time without a battery on it. Now when it comes to how good these things are, I've already told you the temperature, but there's another thing that's equally important, and that is the flow rate. How much air do these things push out? Because you need to be able to blast the heat out of these things, right? So the airflow in litres per minute, the maximum for the Milwaukee, 160, 190, 200, and 300 for the HiKOKI, which incidentally is called the Metabo HPT in the States if you are not aware. So there's a big difference there. The HiKOKI almost double the Milwaukee, and if you combine the temperatures and the airflow rate, this one should come out on top by a million miles, and that's without the digital readout even. But does it? Let's take a look. In this first test, I'm going to take some standard table candles, and we are going to see if we can melt them from a distance of 200 millimeters or 8 inches from the candle. Each heat gun will be run for 1 minute on its highest setting. Got all the batteries on, the charge is charging up, won't be long now, and we can get this show on the road. Okay, so I just tried one at 20 centimeters, not all that good. Didn't have the effect I hoped for with the sort of the drooping and the dripping. I want dripping and drooping. So we're going to move this to 10 centimeters, which is about there. Okay, so we'll try it like that, using each heat gun without any nozzle. After 1 minute with the Makita, we have a bit of a dip, and we have a small amount of drippage, but not much in the way of droopage. She still looks pretty straight. Time for a new candle. So the HiKOKI, she's not dripped as much as I thought it was going to. It started off real good. Thought it was going to thrash the Makita there, but maybe not. Volume wise, it looks to be maybe slightly less. Got a bit of a divot there, and there's our drippage. Looks pretty similar to the HiKOKI. This one's going to be annoying as I've got to hold my finger on it the whole damn time. Let's go. Our drip pattern, very different there on that one compared to the HiKOKI and the DeWalt. It's a bit more in line with the Makita, but nowhere near as much wax removed as the Makita or the other two. Unfortunately, I don't have any scales sensitive enough to weigh this wax. But if we take a look here, we've got DeWalt on the left, HiKOKI in the middle, Makita on the right in that shot. All three of them pretty similar in volume, and then we've got Milwaukee on the end here, which is somewhat less. A good, well less than half of all the other three. And if you're on Patreon, you'll recognize what this is. Let's now take a look at the extra feature that the HiKOKI has, which is the LCD screen on the top. If we turn the tool on to the lowest setting, you can see it starts at 30 degrees Celsius, and we've got a battery symbol there and a fan symbol. So the battery gauge, it's quite handy on the top there. You then go up in 10-degree increments by tapping the plus or minus button. Can't go below 30, and if you hold your finger on it, it goes up much faster. It's on the lowest speeds, it goes up to a maximum of 400. Pretty simple, and it stays on whatever you've set it at. If I flick it up onto the highest speed, you'll see I've set it at 550. There we go, 550 on setting 2. Flick it back to setting 1, it will be on 30 degrees. You can hear the fan changing quite dramatically between the two. So that's quite cool, being able to dial in the exact temperature you want. How accurate it is, well, who knows, but it's a feature that the others don't have. You do, however, have to have the tool running to set it, unlike the Makita, which has a dial on the back which you can just set to whatever you want before you turn the tool on, between 1 and 6, but you don't know, of course, what those numbers necessarily translate into temperature-wise. Okay, but who can blow hot air the longest? I have a 5 amp hour 18650 celled battery on each of these 4 tools. We're going to set them all on their highest setting. Well, 3 of them are set on their highest setting. The Milwaukee doesn't have any settings, it's just on or off. I'm going to set a timer and we're going to see who lasts the longest. HiKOKI's gone. Oh, and Makita's gone. Oh, Milwaukee's going to win. 18:23. Now, of course, you can take some time off that because it took me about 30 seconds to start the clock, so you could take at least 30 seconds off all of them. And of course the DeWalt was started well before the Milwaukee, so there's a few seconds there, but the Milwaukee definitely lasted longer than the rest. It lasted 4 minutes longer than the HiKOKI. That's substantial. But it was winding down a lot, and I don't know if it was throwing out much heat at the end, whereas the HiKOKI might have been a bit more even all the way through. These three, the batteries fractionally warm, not much. Tools are cold. The HiKOKI, the battery and the tools pretty much cold. It did of course stop before the others. The Milwaukee of course went longer and finished last, but much hotter, and the the handle is quite hot and sticky, which is a bit unusual. It's okay up there. Yeah, they're all okay on the top. On the chargers, and the Makita charging fine, HiKOKI charging fine, Milwaukee charging fine, but the DeWalt says it is too hot. And unfortunately it hasn't got a fan in it like the HiKOKI and Makita chargers, so it could be a while, I guess, while it cools down. Okay, so my candle test wasn't as visually interesting as I hoped it would be. Now we're going to try and see if we can actually find out how hot these things get whilst heating up a piece of metal from a set distance. What are we going to go with? Do we go with the 10 centimeters again? 100 mil? I think we will. That's about 4 inches. I'll use this thermal imaging camera to see how hot our pieces of metal will get, and we'll see who actually blows the hottest. And at the 1 minute mark I will take a screenshot of the thermal imaging camera and I'll stick them all up on screen, and we can see which one got the hottest after the 1 minute mark. DeWalt on high, 1 minute, let's go. Seems my stainless brackets are too shiny and the temperature readings are just too erratic, so I'm going to try for something else. Okay, so what we're going to do here is put the heat guns in behind this chunky piece of steel here, and then read how hot it gets with this thermal imaging camera. Now, they'll all be set to the same distance. The nozzles will be set the same, like so. And we'll start the piece of steel at the same temperature, or close to it. And we're going to start with the DeWalt, and the temperature is 16-ish degrees, 16, 17 degrees. Let's see how hot we can get it after, say, a minute. Maybe we'll go to 2 minutes. I don't know. I'll see how the test progresses, how long it takes to heat that piece of steel. Anyway, all 4 guns will be used the same length of time. Okay, DeWalt. There at the 1 minute mark, 33.3 degrees. So that's how we'll do the test, except I'm not going to make you sit through all of them like that. We'll put all 4 of them on the screen now, eh? So as is to be expected, the Makita and the HiKOKI heated up that piece of steel quicker. They are rated for higher temperatures, so that makes sense. So Makita 1, HiKOKI, DeWalt, and trailing was Milwaukee. Now I just want to have a closer look at the Makita and the HiKOKI, mostly based on the fans. The HiKOKI, 300 litres a minute, Makita 200 litres a minute. That's a big difference. None of the others are anywhere near the airflow rate, supposedly, of the HiKOKI. But when I blow them against my hand from a certain distance, it feels like the Makita's blowing more air than this is. So I'm just going to try and test that with a meter. Hopefully it doesn't melt it. Okay, they're both running on their top temperature, top speed. Let's see what we can get. I'm reading this at meters per second. Okay, we've got a solid 1.3 there from the HiKOKI. The Makita is more like 1. Okay, I was wrong. The HiKOKI blows hard. Okay, we're getting into nitpicky stuff now. I'm going to now do a sound test, because to me this thing sounds horrific, and there's no way if I was using these tools every day that I would want to use this one. So, it's a real high pitch whine on it. HiKOKI. Sounds like a weak hairdryer. Makita. Like the HiKOKI, sounds like a hairdryer. And the Milwaukee. Not as bad as the DeWalt, but a bit whiny sounding. Now I'm not going to try all these with a bunch of different tasks, seeing how good they are at stripping paint or melting heat shrink or anything like that, because they just take too long. They do not have anywhere near the power of corded heat guns. But if I could own only one of these, it would be the HiKOKI, based on its features. The HiKOKI has the best of everything of these tools. It's got the hook. It's got the best switch. That's why I like it. It ejects the bits. It's got the digital readout so you can set the tool to whatever temperature you want. It's got the light. It's got everything. But yeah, the switch is definitely the best part of it as far as I'm concerned, because you go straight on. No having to fluff around. The DeWalt and the Milwaukee have annoying safety switches that you have to click down and then lock in a pin. Not that hard. And this one just fails miserably on that regard, because you can't lock it on unless you add a zip tie or Velcro strap. So in order of bestness, I would go HiKOKI, Makita, DeWalt, Milwaukee. If you want a light tool, that is brilliant, but the noise alone is enough to put me off. So, thanks again for watching, guys. I will see you on another one next week, and until then, have a good one.